First, let's review last week's market, and then we'll talk about the outlook for next week. Last week covered January 5th to January 10th. For Bitcoin, the weekly high closed at $94,800, which was the high on January 5th. It matched exactly with the upside target I mentioned in my daily report, not even 1 point off. Very lucky. But after reaching all targets, price was once again rejected around the 94,000 level. The weekly low was $89,316. Overall, Bitcoin managed to hold above the mid-range this week. Ethereum's weekly high closed at $3,308, reaching all targets with an error of only 8 points. The weekly low closed at $3,054. Just like Bitcoin, Ethereum also held the mid-range this week. So my overall view remains the same, nothing has changed. But today I want to add some thoughts about Bitcoin's potential high for this year. I don't know if you remember the video where I talked about Jupiter entering the Punarvasu Nakshatra. Since August 13th last year, Jupiter has repeatedly entered Punarvasu, but every time it tried to break higher, it eventually failed and turned into a rebound instead. The first attempt was on August 13th. It tried to continue higher but failed. Then the second attempt came on October 18th. We all saw the result, another failed rebound. That basically confirmed early October as the top. Then on November 11th, I emphasized that Jupiter and Mercury being retrograde at the same time would be very dangerous. After that, the market went into a long decline and has been in a weak, barely alive state up until now. So the final attempt for Jupiter in Punarvasu to push higher will begin around March 11th. Jupiter will end its retrograde in Punarvasu, and this will be the last attempt. According to traditional interpretations, Punarvasu usually succeeds on the third attempt. That's why I believe March could be when the breakout finally succeeds. Punarvasu is associated with repetition, similar structures, and symmetry. If we look at Bitcoin's weekly chart, the current area actually looks very similar to the low we had around April last year. If price starts climbing again in February, then by around May, we could reach the high level I've been talking about. That would form a double top structure, which fits Punarvasu's symbolism very well. Because of that, I don't think this year's top will be extremely high. Personally, I see $140,000 as the absolute upper limit. The reason is that it cannot be too far away from the previous high on the left side. Otherwise, the structure would lose its symmetry. If it's weaker, then somewhere around $120,000 to $130,000 is also possible. This part is for reference only. Let me share something interesting. At the end of last year, I randomly walked into a store and saw some blind boxes. I'm actually not very into these things. I've only played a few times before and usually lose interest quickly, but that day felt strange. I specifically wanted a cartoon fox and a frog, so I bought 2 blind boxes. When I opened them, they were 2 identical penguins. I was very surprised, so I picked up 2 more boxes, thinking there was no way they'd be penguins again. Guess what happened? I ended up drawing 2 penguins again. I was shocked. I asked the shop owner if it was possible to exchange for a fox or a frog. He was very kind. He took 1 penguin from me and let me draw again. I also paid for 1 more blind box myself. This time I finally got the fox and the frog I wanted. At that moment, I suddenly understood the influence of Punarvasu. I failed twice, and each time I drew 2 boxes at the same time. Only on the 3rd attempt did I succeed. I found it very interesting. Whether price action will really follow this logic on the chart, we'll just have to wait and see. Now let's talk about ADA and SUI. The following analysis is based on the assumption that Bitcoin gradually starts to recover in February. For ADA, I personally think reaching $0.8 is very possible. I'm planning to sell most of my position around that level. If ADA can firmly hold $0.8 before April or May, then this year's high could challenge somewhere around $1.3 to $1.6. As for buying ADA, I think the current price is already low enough. If you truly believe in this project, you can just hold it and wait for the high. Right now, no matter which time frame you look at, price is sitting within the white support zone. Next is SUI. At this level, around $3.43, there is clear resistance. If it can break above that area, then the next high will be around that nearby zone. For buying, I think any price below $2.38 is acceptable. Finally, let's talk about next week. Next week covers January 12th to January 17th. We'll continue using last week's levels. There hasn't been a clear direction in the past couple of days, but January 13th should bring a clearer move. As usual, I personally plan to buy at lower levels. Around the 78,000 and 71,000 areas, I'll be buying. I believe the riskiest period in January starts from the 13th and lasts until around the 25th. Let's see how January plays out. After buying in January, I personally plan to hold until May. However, if Bitcoin reaches $120,000 or $130,000 early in April, I'll adapt and take profits accordingly. Starting from February, we really need to follow the price action closely. Alright, that's it for today. Weekly forecasts should never be viewed alone. They must be combined with daily and monthly charts. The daily charts fill in what the weekly might miss. I wish you all the best. May you buy at the bottom and sell at the top. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you found this helpful. Send this to your friends too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.